stick out like a sore thumb because I'm not going to dress up in green or blue makeup or those ears, and I just will not fit in there. So I thought, this is good. I have an 11-year-old nephew. I can put a T-shirt on him and I'll say, it's not really me, I'm bringing him. Loving aunt thing to do. So we went over there, and I found out that Dee was going to speak on the final day of the convention. Because the hotel fees were so steep, I actually stayed in a KOA campground in Spokane. And on the first day of the convention, I went over there and I said, is there any chance you'd give Mr. Kelly a note for me? Because I actually brought the article hoping that he might actually sign it 20 years down the road. And I brought a copy of the book, and the guy says, no. And I went, alrighty then. So I figured that was that. Unknown to me, DeForest and Carolyn called the convention hotel trying to find me. And when they didn't find me there, because I wasn't there, they called all these other hotels in the area trying to track me down, Friday and Saturday. And so Sunday rolls around, and Dee comes on to this thunderous applause. And I'm sitting down about that far away on the ground, and there are other rows of fans right in front of me. And there were 2,000 fans in this place, and I thought, there's no way I'm going to feel comfortable basically stopping his appearance to thank him for launching my writing career. I just didn't feel that that was appropriate at all. So I was watching him do his appearance, and about 30 minutes later, he started to look at his watch, and I went, if I don't do it now, I'll never get another chance. So I raised my hand into this sea of upstretched hands. I mean, practically everybody in the place had their hand up. And for some reason, you can call it a miracle, he picked it. He didn't recognize me. And he said, yes, you. And I said, I whispered, just so I could do it quick, I just wanted to thank you for launching my writing career. And he goes, are you Chris? And I said, yeah. And he goes, I've been looking all over for you. I just about passed out. And there was a Phil Donahue type moderator, and he came running over to me with a microphone, and he stuck it under my chin, expecting me to say something. I'm like, yeah. So finally I said, whispering, so nobody can hear, of course, into the microphone, may I give you a hug? And he goes, you sure may. Come on up here. So I jumped up onto the stage, and I patted his back, and I scratched his back, and I said, thank you so much, thank you so much. He says, we're really proud of you. We're really proud of you. I said, thank you so much, and I jumped back down, and I went over to sit by my nephew, and I said, were you embarrassed when I asked for a hug? And he goes, no, I was proud. What I found in DeForest Kelley is what no fan could ever expect to hope for and be sane. I mean, he was just the most wonderful human being. Let's see. My goodness. I'm trying to find out where I am now. Well, this is all good. Oh, this is good. Okay, so I went to another convention one Dee was at. Adam knows me from DeForest Kelley conventions. He said, she was always out there somewhere, you know. But I went to one more convention in Denver that Dee was at, and then I went to another one, and I was invited with several fans by Sue Keenan, Dee's fan club president, to have dinner with the Kellys. I was a nervous wreck. I'm going to read this part out of the book. I wrote it as a stand-up comedy, but every word of it is absolutely true. And I would only tell Trek people this because I think Trek people would understand it. Everybody else would think I was nuts. The chapter is Happy Birthday to Me. 3 weeks after my birthday, I wound up in Denver and was invited via Sue to dinner with the Kellys. This was my first actual sit-down and chat meeting with them, and I was so nervous that before we headed into their suite, I pleaded with Sue, Sit right next to me all night long, and if they ask me a question, you answer it. When you find yourself in an overwhelming situation like that, you want to be at your best. You want to make a good impression. Above all, you do not want to come across looking like Garfield's little buddy Odie. On the other hand, you don't want to look as if you're having an audience with the Pope. Something right smack in the middle seemed about right, but I wasn't sure I could handle a middle-of-the-road approach. So I was nervous. No, I was petrified. I followed Sue and a couple other DKFC members, all of whom were cool, calm, and collected by all appearances, into the Kelly's hotel suite where we were to meet, and I managed, for a moment, to present myself as normal. I hugged Mrs. Kelly and said hello. Then I went over and shook hands with Dee. So far, so good. But witnessed how quickly I went downhill from there inside my nerve-wracked body. We stepped over to the couches and prepared to sit down. Dee asked us if he could take our coats. Now, if anyone else on the planet had asked me that question, an easy answer would have been yes or no, right? He wasn't asking my opinion on whether we should get out of the Persian Gulf. He was just asking if I cared to give up my coat for a while. I gave it serious thought. I thought, what does he want me to say? Should I say yes? Will he be upset if I say no? Finally, it occurred to me that he didn't give a fig whether I said yes or no, just so long as I said something so he could sit down. So I said no. That seemed to satisfy him, but not for long. Next, he wanted to know if we would like drinks. I don't drink, so naturally I said yes. Well, I had just told him no on something else. I didn't want him to think I was a bitch. So I said yes. Then he wanted to know what I would have. Oh boy, he had me there. He was pitching these incredibly difficult questions at me, and I was unable to field them. Oh, whatever, I finally decided, hoping that would end the interrogation. Mrs. Kelly probably recognized the fact that I had slipped into the much-dreaded idiocy mode, no doubt a common affliction of fans, and tried to help me out. She suggested that I try a DeForest Kelly. I looked at her and I thought, gee, that is a very generous offer. But I realized I wasn't getting the proper picture. She explained to me that a DeForest Kelly was a drink known to all of fandom, except me, obviously. Oh, fine, I'll have one of those. Well, after a couple of DeForest Kellys, vodka and water with a twist of lemon, I felt calmer. No one had raised any other controversial questions similar to, can I take your coat, in quite a while. So I was just sitting back and listening and watching everybody talk and laugh and have a good time. Not much later, we went downstairs for dinner. Dee sat at the head of the table. To his right sat Sue Keenan, and to her right sat Jackie Edwards. To Dee's left, Mrs. Kelly, Carolyn, then me. There was nobody on my left for 100 miles. I quickly lost my nervousness sitting next to Carolyn because she is a doll, so nice and so much fun. She could calm a jackhammer. I know because she calmed me and I'm the greater challenge. We lost ourselves in some conversation about both having been raised in the state of Washington. At one point I was explaining something to her in great detail, and a crease on my left sleeve popped me with a great deal of force, and I stopped in mid-sentence and turned around to my left, expecting to find a waiter or someone who had come along to ask me a question. There was nobody there. I panicked. I thought, okay, Chris, how are you going to handle this dilemma? Well, I had two choices. I could turn back to Carolyn and just continue the conversation as if nothing at all had happened, leaving her to think I was several bricks short of a full load, or I could explain what happened. Well, naturally, I opted for the truth. But I forgot a complete explanation. Instead of what I just told you, I turned back to Mrs. Kelly and said, strange. I could have sworn somebody just tapped me on the shoulder. Carolyn accepted this bizarre information calmly, She looked at Jackie. Jackie looked at her. They both studied their salads for a while and said nothing. I'm amazed the Kellys didn't signal someone to bring a butterfly net. It took me over a month to remember all the stupid things I said and did at dinner that evening. I found it comforting at a later date to learn that other fans admitted experiencing similar difficulties the first few times they were faced with actually trying to communicate with the objects of their affection. Uh-oh.